We start off chapter 2 in the underworld, but not for no reason. We're in hell-breaking pots, so we can have a quick way to get us an obsidian skin potion so we can grab some good old hellstone. After acquiring the obsidian skin potion, we grab a mining potion and get to digging for that hellstone. We grabbed a couple hundred ore and went up a few layers to grab some obsidian. We grabbed a good old molten pickaxe and hold on, I gotta show you something real quick. To all the anime fans watching, just like myself, I need you to take a look at this. There's this accessory called the black glass band. Black glass. Keep that in mind because it rhymes with something in particular. The tooltip reads a couple of familiar lines like, hitting an enemy creates an obsidian flash that always critical strikes. Okay. It has a 5-second cooldown that is halved if the strike kills an enemy. So kind of like a flow state system. Okay. It also reads, a shining band with balanced potential. Okay, so we can all agree this is a JJK reference, right? This is literally the black flash as an accessory. I actually do use this too, but I thought it was pretty funny. After that, I head back down the hill to cover some more grounds, cause not proud to say this, but I do end up spending quite a while down here fighting for my life later in this chapter. We'll have a good talk about that later in the video, because what the fuck? While I'm covering my ground, I discover the Brimstone Crag, the dominion of dozens of devilish dudes, and the place will be back in the future for an item called Essence of Havoc. And you know, this place is kind of beautiful. These leaves and stuff look pretty nice. We also head to the left side of the underworld to find the little hell forest mini biome. Over here, we snack some ashwood and go down to this laboratory where we immediately get lit up like an Israel drone strike. Using that ashwood we got a minute ago, we craft this fire dagger weapon, and sometime during chapter 1's runtime, a meteor will come in our world. You know we gotta tap in with that as there is a pretty good rogue weapon we can get from it, and that would be the meteor fist. Trust me, you'll see this thing a lot throughout chapter 2. It's actually so hardcore, and we reforge that to flawless, you know what I'm saying? On the way to the Crimson, I collect a second meteor, and fresh off the grill, we get straight into our first boss fight of chapter 2. Another boss with the fire f***ing soundtrack. So attempt 1 was a bit of a doozy. The swarm of these little ichor balls, pause, followed by the triple shot burst. Okay, INFERNUM, we getting somewhere. Luckily his hover patterns alone were pretty easy to follow, but that's just about where my luck ends, because this man breaks off into the trademark Terraria boss dashes while simultaneously busting ichor splooge residue on the floor. I genuinely didn't have to say all that, pause. Now when the worm spawns in, the hive itself decides it's just going to spam W key and dash back and forth over and over. And as simple-minded of a strategy as this is, it's not as simple-minded as my simple mind. 2 moving targets is too much for my Patrick Star brain to handle. So evidently them niggas call me lacking. So like usual, we do the all-reliable and pour up some buffs and spark up that round too. Initially, this round was looking kinda even. You know, he got his licks in, and you know I had to get mine back for sure. I get him low enough to respawn his little worm guy, and this time I'm hard focusing his worm. Pause. But with the general AoE of this meteor fist and the occasional stealth strike, he goes down. When it comes to segmented enemies, the meteor fist is super effective, no Pokemon. Once he gets back in his solo phase, he starts firing these lobster dudes from heaven and hell, but we weave those like how niggas weave the Madam Wet tickets opening night. That's a bar if you heard me for real. So we get his second worm to come out. Hey, I'm not even gonna say it this time. This one is a little bit more of a traditional worm type. The last one was a bit more sporadic with his movements. But nonetheless, the second worm goes down and he was quite unremarkable, not gonna lie. Like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, nigga. Real talk, you ought to be ashamed. Now hold on real quick, let me break it down for you, Mark. This nigga was moving strenuous. So he whips off the flying lobsters, the horizontal dash shooting ichor up to rain down, followed by the spiral squirrel into the dash. Good sir, I was not familiar with your game. I personally still nag all that, but you know how I move. So we get his last worm to come out, and Jesus Christ, this nigga is huge. Okay, I can't let this one slide, pause. The final worm is kind of a mix of the previous two. The big movements of the second one and the direct attacks of the first one. Like bro, look at cuz. Does every Inferno boss have the Dread Nautilus loop-de-loop? Oh my god, he put all you niggas on. Not gonna lie, they started working me here. I low-key thought I was gonna get packed up like FedEx. But we get the last worm down, and this nigga really starts turning up and letting that shit fly like he had to switch on whatever bodily organism that allows him to shoot that stuff. We're not going to expand any further. But that's the Perforator Hive down for good. And it's actually this kill that awakens the Aerialite in the skies, which will grant us our first pair of wings later in the playthrough. So you pop a gravitation potion and get straight to business, and we get to lay eyes on that shiny, succulent Aerialite ore. So we mine up as much as we can, and brother, I was moving like bees with the pickaxe. I'm an elite miner. You would have thought I was on that. Never mind. After I got home, I sparked to our guide, whose name is Waffle, by the way, to see exactly what we can craft with our new ore. Only to find out that we need sunplate blocks and feathers to craft the general area light items, both of which I have pretty much none of. So we take to the skies to strip this sunplate house of everything it's worth. We use said sunplate to craft the 2 area light rogue weapons. Then we take to the skies again to farm harpies for feathers, and after that little endeavor, we craft a full set of arrow spec armor. And with the extra area light we have, we craft the skyline wings, my boy. We are doing big things. I'm going to present a small theme for this playthrough for you real quick, and it's real simple. After my first 3 hours of grinding at the start of the playthrough, I just started going for blood, like real talk. I just started cracking bosses back to back, no pause. Just let that be known, because I kind of start just gunning through the bosses. Probably should have grinded a little bit more at certain points, but I do what I do. I'm still a professional. Now with that being said, you know I gotta get these buffs so we can take down the Queen Bee. So we head to the jungle and start the massive process of building that arena, and I'll give y'all a little montage while I build it up. Yeah, that was not supposed to happen. Now I gotta fight this bitch with no arena light, bro. You should have seen my face. I was looking like these, except it's a little sexier. So the fight starts off surprisingly pretty similar to the base game fight. She's floating around firing off them stinger shots while I'm dodging them all, hitting her with that flawless meteor fist. She does her dashes, then switches to her secondary with the shotgun stinger shots. This shit was light too though, truthfully, shit was going a little too smooth. About halfway through the fight, we get a new attack where she got the big ass bees flying through the screen. Then she uses said bees as a screen to hit me with a dash. That's the only play she made through the entire fight. Get your weight up, you big body bitch. At this point, the fight is more or less the same. She's a bit faster and she's letting them things fly for real, like she's spraying that thing. Pause. See, now we're getting close, and hold on. Lock in, Queen Bee, she for real doing something now. It's like a storm of these niggas. We still bob to the arena though, this is nothing for me. Alright, so now we coming up on the hey yo, Queen Bee, watch out. She tries her desperation move one more time. Not gonna lie, I said fuck that shit, drop another space rock on her. And that concludes the Queen Bee fight. Kinda crazy how I spawned her on accident, but still fleeced her on purpose, my nigga. That lets you know you watching the right YouTuber. Go ahead and join the bang, gangy wangy. We crack open that treasure bag and get nothing of note for us in particular. We do get the bee accessory and actually use it, so that's pretty sweet. After leaving, we actually travel back to the jungle. Not to finish the arena though. We will do that once it's time for Plantera, but I decided that I should make a jungle pylon for that sweet, sweet fast travel. We also dig a hole straight down to the arena for whenever we decide to get off our lazy ass and finish it. Yes, me and you are both such lazy bums. We are unemployed. With Queen Bee out the way, that bloodlust was still flowing through my veins, so I had to spin on Skeletron, the Lord of the Dungeon. And this is my favorite fight so far. He is what I consider to be our first real taste of what INFERNUM has to offer. So we build our arena, grab some buffs, and Chippy gonna have to call this chiropractor because I got a bone to pick with Skeletron. The battle starts off pretty calm, but I was mildly alerted by the fact that he's raising his hands in the air as if I still had my body cam on. Whole time, that shit never cleared customs, nephew. You finna go on Twitter. He fires off cursed skulls in his base form before popping his domain expansion, and this is where shit gets crazy, beep gizzy. He fires his spread shot skulls, then imbues his shadow flame curse technique into his barrier to form his sure hit attack, resulting in me leaking like Luca, my nigga. After his domain closes, he rushes me, releasing shadow flames as he barrels towards me. Truly a swell battle. After firing more spread shots, he starts hitting the Frieza pose to release all his shadow flames in an omnidirectional circular motion. But hold on, peep the two-step. Come on, King Tron, I'm unimpressed. Alright, folks, calm down. But look at this fight, bro. This shit is genuinely so fire, bro. The thing I love about INFERNUM is that it's not cancer like death mode, and it prioritizes the difficulty and complexity of each individual fight. And as someone who loves third-person action games like Devil May Cry, God of War, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, and Kingdom Hearts, the design of these bosses trigger my thirst for a good challenge. So, good on the devs. He triggers another one of the flame wall moves, and I unfortunately was caught on the other side, and that shit turned me into a filet-o-fish with slivered onions and pickles. Around the same point in my second attempt, you can see I'm doing a lot better. This is where he pulls out the skull sealing technique. This is one of my favorite attacks of his. This shit looks so tough. The fight goes on, and I'm still giving him belt and evening out the score. When I kill him, he strengthens himself for one final attack.
I need a break!
And that is Skeletron defeated. Truly a formidable foe like I've never seen before. And the result of that is this lady who fell from the sky. Well, that was a little strange. So with the defeat of Skeletron, we head down into the dungeon. For what, you ask? I don't know. You kind of just go into the dungeon after you defeat the Tron. I happen to acquire pretty much nothing of note, aside from some bones that we can actually use to make another rogue weapon known as the Enchanted Axe. I did need more pearl shards though, so I ran it back to the Desert Scourge, crafted the Enchanted Axe, and it's alright. I wouldn't consider it to be too good, but it's a cool addition, I guess. With the big Tron out the way, we are down to the final frontier of Chapter 2's bosses. And before we get into the next one, I gotta warn you, this boss was unexpectedly difficult and the first boss that I would say I genuinely struggled with thus far. And while that tune rings true, she is far outdone, and I mean by a landslide, by another boss in this very chapter. So we hit the underground snow biome and found the little igloo thing with a snow dog mount. This chest also pretty much hand delivered me the flinks fur I need for the deer clop spawner. We also found this little light pet, and he looks pretty cool. We craft the deer thing. I'm not just saying that, that's actually what it's called. Grab up some buffs, and we get straight into the hardest fight thus far. Now what makes this fight so hard in my opinion is the arena. The imprisonment comboed with the large ice attacks don't seem to be too major right now, but this deer clops is very tanky, and once it becomes a battle of attrition, the amount of time you've been caught by it will start to show. After testing with her for a while, she closes in the fight with the barrier of these shadow hands, and this here scenario is what runs the fight for the remainder of this battle. She got the MVC2 Cyclops Optic Blast that can cover half the barrier. She can send in shadow hands that also cover so much space before they disappear, as well as ones that go up and down. And after that show of attacks, like more than half of my health is gone. Now by the time this first attempt had concluded, I had given this bitch a royal rumble ass beating, which I didn't even know that I did that good, so I'm gonna have to pat myself in the back for that one. But we do lose, and lose, and lose, and lose. Now I'm not gonna lie. Looking back, I was digging on the Enchanted Axe a little bit, and to give it some credit, I did use it for a lot of this final attempt where I finally put this Bambi bitch on a china platter for the final supper. Now with her defeated, I took a small break to jack my beanstalk to revel in the success of overcoming a great threat. Then we set this shit up to make hands with the God of Slimes, a boss who in my opinion has one of the best themes in the Calamity soundtrack. As someone who used to mash up the bigger content mods into one big mod pack, the Slime God always stood out to me when it came to late pre-hard mode bosses, which that might just be because the music is so fire. The fight starts off with just the big red slime, we're gonna call him Clifford. A very simple attack pattern starting out. Every time he jumps towards me, he releases them big red balls, and I ain't talking about the Flash game, shout out to Red Ball for it. Alongside the red balls, he occasionally releases that goopy sludge upon hitting the ground. Too many niggas got sludgy attacks, yo, INFERNUM Des, what y'all got going on? Halfway through Clifford's health bar, the Slime God releases another gigantic jelly. We're gonna call this one, Blue Judas. So Clifford and Blue Judas disappeared for a bit, leaving me to bask in the barrage of jack slimes and jello niggas before coming down to release omnidirectional projectile goop in an attempt to catch me lacking. They hit the switcheroo and try that shit again. This is the moment that I realized these niggas were truly in the flow state, operating at 120% of their potential. I felt this shit even deeper, pause, when these slimes hit me with that combo, leaving me leaking like I had faucet failure, no ski mask. And while I may not be the slum god, these niggas are the slime god, so they paid my ass out. So not that far through attempt 2, I die again. What, you thought the shit was gonna be easy? Nah, they was up in my ass, gang. But I'm gonna make a completely valid excuse and say that I was having performance issues. But I did get a new GPU a decent bit after this, so your boy gonna steamroll hella bosses in the future, watch. Attempt number 3, we get Clifford and Blue Judas down, and the slime core starts going crazy, turning this shit into a complete bullet hell. On the realest of notes, this shit caught me off guard, so I paid for this shit with my soul. Attempt number 4 was just as sad as attempt number 3. Attempt number 5, I reached the final phase with over half my health remaining. So surely this is the one. And you better place your bets properly, because when I got that gravitation potion in my system, anything is possible. I was chefing bro up with the dodges too. And once I popped that health potion, I knew it was raps. And raps it was. That's the last we'll be seeing of those niggas. With the purified gel that the slime god drops, we were able to make a whole new rogue set and rogue weapon. The status gel set and the gel dart as some of our final pieces of equipment, period, in pre-hard mode. With our progression seemingly coming to a halt, there's only one thing we can do left. It was by far the most challenging thing we've done up until this point. We grab thousands of building blocks and head down to the underworld to make the Hell Bridge so we can face off against the Guardian of Light and Darkness, our final challenge before we reach hard mode. Immediately we see that this nigga still has his main mouth, accompanied by 4 eyes rather than the standard 2. Those eyes are also hanging out on cords of flesh opposed to them being attached to the wall. During the first stage of the fight, it's really slow and his only actual attack is that final flash he got, and that shit is lower accurate because it ain't hit me once. The eyes themselves don't have a lot of defense or health and are pretty easy to take care of on their own. So I'm sure you're wondering why I've claimed this is the most difficult thing I had to do thus far. I'll save you some time on curiosity. Once you kill an eye, it breaks off from the bunch and revolves around you firing lasers as whatever eyes that are still attached to continue to fire their death rays. And it ends up being that combo that ends my first attempt. Perplexed on how I got my ass curb stomped so bad, I grabbed the black flash ring to up my overall DPS in an attempt to make the subsequent attempts easier. It's only a second attempt where I want to highlight another attack in the wall's bag that honestly, in of itself highlights what the problem was with my overall approach to this fight, and I'll explain that in a second. But this attack erects tentacles from all the surrounding sources that flow towards the player. Remember this piece of information. But soon after, this is where the second attempt ends, not really having done any better than the first attempt. This fight alone was pretty much an arc in the grand scheme of this story. After those initial attempts, we take a stroll to various places on our world to decompress from the situation and think of a plan. Also looking to find some extra loot. Our first stop was the dungeon, and like the first time we came here, we didn't really find anything except like the shadow key. So we take said shadow key and storm the underworld for all the hell booty they got. Pause. We again find nothing, and this inability to find any major outbreak in my weaponry gives me the idea that I should probably migrate to the non-consumable wall of flesh spawner if I'm just gonna have to keep taking a crack at this nigga. So I take an entire Odin sleep's worth of sleep waiting for a blood moon that would surprisingly be the first blood moon for this entire playthrough thus far. But I get my blood orbs, craft a new spawner, and I hit the road because I'm not fighting any crazy niggas. So we spark up the next attempt, and I don't know what I expected. We pretty much got nothing new since the last time. The following attempt goes the same way, and this causes me to make one more calculated advance. One I know will benefit me, even if just a little bit. And despite that, this advance was kinda led by ignorance. While reading up on one of those mechanical rogue weapons that I spoke about towards the end of the last chapter, it tells me to find a lab in the Sunken Sea. So I set out to the Sulfuric Sea, aka the Wasteland, under the assumption that the Wasteland, and by extension the Abyss, fell under the name Sunken Sea. This is just not the case. The Sunken Sea is actually that place with the big ass clam that's underneath the desert biome. So we set out to the Wasteland Seas to find some new schematics. We burrow around this place, loot some chests, and cover some good ground, ultimately getting quite deep into the Sulfuric Sea, and I mean, look at this map overview. We eventually go back home and grab a Gills potion to make our venture a bit easier, and upon slightly dipping our toes into the Abyss, we find a new weapon, a new holy grail, the lionfish. Royal class seems to have a lot of fish weapons, and somehow all these shits are clutch as fuck. So we add that to the arsenal, grab hella other Abyss loot, then we get our asses blown out by a trap chest in the Abyss rigged with explosives. First of all, pause. Second of all, fuck you Calamity devs. Alright, this is where we get back into making hands with the wall of flesh. Our first attempt back doesn't differ much from our previous bouts, despite the obvious increase in burst damage due to the new weapon. Now the second attempt back was something completely different than we've done before. We get 3 eyes forced out from the bunch, and we see another late stage attack in the walls kit. Running from this move is a pretty cool sequence, but the move itself is nothing of note. And that, folks and freaks, exactly is what highlights the problem I've been having with this boss. And it's solely the amount of space I've given myself. With the hindsight I have now, I completely believe that this boss would have been a fucking breeze in the park if it didn't look like the streets of India down here. We get super close to winning this time, only to fail anyways. Fast forward past the next couple of deaths, and the final attempt was looking like heaven and hell. We got all 4 eyes out while being about 3/4 full on health. When I saw this, I knew my stocks were on the rise, and rise they did, resulting in my glorious victory. You love to see it. Oh my fucking god, I remember this being so bad. Truth be told though, if I wasn't hard-headed and decided to widen my space for evasive maneuvers, this would have gone way differently. But with Cobalt and Palladium blessing my world, as well as the ancient spirits of light and darkness being released, that spells the conclusion of chapter 2.